Hello everyone. Today let's see about constraints in Oracle SQL. So what do you mean by constraint? So when I search in Google, the exact meaning of constraint gives limitation, restriction, rules. So as we know, constraints is nothing but the rules that we apply to the column or table to ensure data accuracy and integrity stored in the database. So it is nothing but the rules that we apply to column or tables to make sure data is correct and data in correct integrity stored in the database. So what will happen if we store the data with constraint? So if we store the data with constraint, then the ID will be unique. So as you know, even in company or school, wherever we are, the ID should be unique. And also, email address cannot be empty. And if we consider about the product, then the product price must always be greater than zero. It cannot be negative. And also, order cannot belong to the non-existing customer. So these are uh, kind of error that could happen without constraint. So with constraint, we can set the rules to the column. So the ID should be unique, the email cannot be empty, and price cannot be in a negative value, something like that. Okay. See, without constraint, what will happen? Customer can register without email, and duplicate ID can happen. Product price can be negative, and order can be belong to non-existing customer. So this is the thing with constraint and without constraint. And let us see the constraint type meaning. I'll explain this how it works with example. Okay, just for an introduction, P means primary key, U means unique, R refers to foreign key, and C refers to check. Okay, here this is important. So types of constraints. So in Oracle SQL, there are 6 type of constraint, that is not null, unique, primary key, check, default, foreign key. Okay, let's see one by one in the video. And here we can add the constraint in 2 ways. Okay, so while creating the table, see here I just given an example of creating table employee. Here um, while creating the table, we have to give the column name with its data type. So along with that, we can just enter the constraint. For example, here employee ID number, and I have given the constraint as primary key. And for employee name, I have given not null. And employee salary, I have given the constraint check. And here for employee city, I've given the constraint as default Bangalore. And here I did not mention the constraint name here, just the keyboard of constraint uh, added in this example. Okay. For example, if we want to add the constraint with constraint name, then the example is while creating the table, you need to enter the column name followed by its data type, and then you need to write constraint keyword, and this is the name of the constraint followed by the a keyword of the constraint. So constraint primary key, this is the constraint name. So this will be useful to check in the table, like that. Okay, it will be useful later. So we can give even like this also. So constraint followed by the constraint name and the keyword of the primary key. And for employee name also constraint followed by the constraint name and then the constraint. Even for uh, employee salary and email also, the constraint name I have given as UQ, email unique. And for this employee city, varchar default Bangalore. I'll show you the example how it works. Okay, so let us create a table employee here. Table employee. So first this is without constraint name. Okay, so creating table without constraint name. So here inside create table employee, I need to write the um, column name. So employee id data type is number, and here I can give as primary key. And then employee name data type is varchar, and here the maximum number of character we can enter is 2. And I'm giving constraint as not null for this employee name. Okay, and then I'm adding one more column as employee salary, and its data type is varchar 2, maximum number of character is 20. And for this constraint I'm adding as unique. And then I'm writing one more column, employee age, and its data type is number. And constraint what I'm adding is check, and inside check I need to enter the employee age should be greater than 20. And then I'll add one more column as city, and its data type is varchar, and its constraint is default. And I'm writing default, I'm setting the default value here is write as Bangalore. Okay, and here I'm trying to varchar 2, and I'll set the limitation to 20. Okay, fine, I'll just run this command and see. Okay, we can see here employee table is created. Okay, so this is without the constraint name. We did not give any constraint name here, we have just added the constraint. Okay, so we can validate here by entering the exact correct data, and we can see whether it works. And we can also enter the incorrect data, saying that we can enter for this primary key repeated employee id we can enter, and see whether it gives error or not. And for this employee name we can just give blank and check whether it gives error. And for this employee salary, here we have mentioned unique. Okay, it's not employee salary, here we can write employee email. Okay, so employee email. So we have entered here as unique. We can enter a repeated email ID and check whether it throws error or not. And for this age, we can give less than 20 and check. Okay, I'll show you that one by one. Now let's okay. So in order to check whether uh, whatever we have added the constraint is applied to the table or not, we can check here. Okay, the syntax is select constraint, constraint name, comma, constraint type from user constraints where table name equals, this should be in uppercase. Okay, so I'll write as employee, table name is employee. I'll run this command and see. Okay, it throws some error. Let me see what is the error here. Employee constraint name, constraint type, invalid identifier. Table name. Okay, just give me a second. I'll check and I'll update. Okay, so the what is the mistake here is I have entered the table name within like as a string. Okay, it is character, no, so I have to enter within a single quote, not in a double quote. So this is the error. So in a single quote I have just written the single quote, and within that I'm writing the table name. Let me check now. See, you can see here the constraint name and its type. I've explained, for each type, for each type, the name of the constraint is this one. So, for example, if type is P, it means primary key. U means unique key. So here C is for check. C is for check. Sometimes C also includes not null. P is for primary and U is for unique key. So this is the syntax. I will also share you the complete notes. You can check it later. So this is the syntax to check the constraint and its type. Okay. So this we have done without the constraint name. Next we will create a table with constraint name. So before that I'll drop the table employee, only then I can create the table, because I don't want to mess up again. So I'll explain you with this employee table itself. Okay, so here table employee is dropped. Okay, now with constraint name I'll explain. So how to do that? Create table, same thing, I'll just copy paste. Create a table employee number, and here you need to write the constraint keyword, and the name of the constraint, what do you want to give, and then primary key. And for employee name, okay, I'll write in a single line itself. And here for var card, that is employee name, data type, write the keyword constraint and give constraint name as not null, and the keyword not null. Constraint, spelling mistake is here. Okay, and again here I'll just copy paste for each column. And here unique, for unique I'll just write uq, and for this check I'll write constraint, here I'll write check. Okay, let me run this command and see. Okay, here table employee created, and let's run this command again to check is constraint name, constraint type, which I have already shown you for the employee table which we have created without the constraint name. Let's check for this one for which we have created table with constraint name. Okay, I'll run this command. See, for this table, okay, for this table the constraint name, it has mentioned as not null. Say whatever the name we have mentioned, constraint name, it has taken that as a constraint name and it displayed here. Earlier without constraint name, it was given as the system generated constraint kind of code it was given. Now the constraint name, that is the customized constraint name, is displayed here. Okay, so I have shown you to create the table for constraint with and without constraint name. This is done. Okay, to verify the constraint name and constraint type also I have explained, and this one to verify which column the constraint belongs to. So if you want to check uh, the particular constraint belongs to which column, you can check using this command. Select constraint name, column name, and this is a keyword this you need to enter, and constraint name as this one or user defined uh, constraint name. I'll show you once. So we'll check for this a check constraint. Okay, so to check which column has particular constraint, so here we'll check for CHK. So we want to check this CHK constraint belongs to which column. Okay, for this the syntax is select constraint column from user constraint column, select from user constraint column where table equals, where table name equals single quote, and I need to write here in a capital letter. So table name is employee. Constraint. Is there any error here? Select constraint name. To verify the constraint belongs to constraint name. Okay. Constraint name, column name, constraint name, and column name. I'll just select this statement and execute the query. Throw some error. Column. It should be some spelling mistake. Select constraint name, constraint column. Oh, it should be column name. Column name from user from user CONS columns where table name is equal to employee. Oh, what mistake I have done here is I need to give the what is that, constraint name here. So instead of table name, I need to give constraint name. Okay, that's why it's not displaying. It's not displaying anything. So this CHK I'll give here. Select constraint name, column name from user. This is like constant. This is keyword we need to write. Okay, where constraint name is equal to CHK. Okay, I'll select the statement and run the command. What happened? Why I am not getting here? Select constraint name, column name from user column where constraint name is equal to CHK. Okay, I'm sorry, as I've already told you, for this one I have explained and for this I have forgotten. See here, for table name, we have entered in uppercase within a single quote, right? Here, I have entered in like a smaller letter. That's why it is not showing here. So that is my mistake. I need to write in uppercase. Why? Because the Oracle stores the constraint name and here table name in a uppercase itself. That's why if we don't mention in capital letter, we are not getting the output here. Okay, so that we have to remember always. So I'll select this command and I'll run. We can see here the constraint name check belongs to the column employee age. Okay, fine. Now let's check one by one constraint. Okay, first let's see not null constraint. So what does not null constraint do is it will make sure column cannot have null value. So in Oracle, not null is treated as a column property, that is attribute, so not as a table constraint. I'll show you the example. So before that, I'll drop the employee table where I have given all the constraint. Okay, let's do it from starting. So I'll drop the employee table here. Okay, and I'll create the table without the constraint, and then we'll try to add the constraint for the existing table. Then it will be I cannot say easy. This is also one of the way we can learn how to do it. So create table employee, and column is employee ID, employee name, employee email, employee age, and a city. Okay, so here there is no constraint added. We are just entering the table here. We are just creating the table. Okay, so employee table created. So let's add constraint to an existing table. So let's add first not null. So in order to add not null, you need to type alter table name as employee, and then modify column name. So to which column you want to enter not null. So let us add to employee name. Okay, so modify column name, and I'll write the constraint here, not null. I'll select this and execute the statement, and we can see employee table altered. We can validate this by entering the value. So let's try to insert the value and check. So insert into table name is employee, and let me add like only few column. Okay, first I'll write employee ID, and then employee name, and here values, and enter ID for ID1, and for name as first let's enter RAM. So I'll try to insert the value, and we can see one row inserted. So as you know, to display the records from the table, we can write select star from the table. So we can see here employee ID 1, employee name is Ram, and we did not enter any value for email, age, city. So by default the value is null here. Now we know that for employee name we have given the constraint as not null. So let's check here without giving any values. Okay, Let's not give any value here. I'll try inserting empty character here. Let's see. It, so when I try to enter null value here, it throws an error. Can you see here? An attempt was made to insert null into previously listed object. These objects cannot accept null value. So it cannot accept null value here because we have given the constraint as not null for the column EMP name. So fine. So this is how we can validate. And I have also I'll mention in the notes also. In order to remove the null constraint, the syntax is alter table student modify student name, this one. So you can write not null in order to remove the null constraint. I'll show it here. So this is to add the null constraint here. In order to remove the null constraint, in order to remove null constraint, not null, not null constraint, we need to write alter table name is employee, and then modify column name. What is that column name? EMP name. Its data type varchar 220, and then constraint we are giving as not null. We want to add, in order to remove it, modify student name null. We should write null. Not null is a constraint. In order to remove it, you need to write null. I'll run this command. So table altered. So now if I give empty string, it is accepted. So select start from employee, and you can see here for the second time it accepted null. Okay. I'll also add everything in the notes. You can check the notes. Next, let's see unique constraint. So as we all know, unique means it is not a repeated value. So if we apply unique constraint to the column, that means it will make sure the columns are unique. I will also show the example. So let's try to add unique constraint to an existing column. So let's add unique constraint. Unique constraint. Okay. So as we know, table is already created. Now we are adding the unique constraint to an existing table. And at the start of the like earlier, I also showed you we can create the table name along with the constraint when we create the table itself. So at the time of creating table, we can add the constraint. Now I am also showing you to add the constraint to the existing table. Okay, so in order to add unique constraint, you need to write alter table name is employee, and here you need to write add constraint. We can give the constraint name here. So I will give as UQ, and unique keyword you need to write in between. Unique keyword you need to write the column name for which you want to add this constraint. So I'll write for email column. So emp underscore email, that is the column name we have given, right? Emp email, alter table name, add constraint UQ. This is the constraint name and keyword of unique and column name. I'll run this command and see. We can see here table employee altered, and we can validate this by entering the data. So let's insert values here. Here I'll give as employee email, and okay, I'll give the value as 2 for employee ID, and for email I'll give as abc at example.com. Okay, I'll select this statement and execute. Here we can see one row got inserted. Now I'll display the data from the employee table, and we can see here for employee ID 2, I have entered the employee email as this one, and I have not given employee name, employee age, city. So by default those column uh, got like it added a null as a default value. Okay, so as you know, for the column employee email, we have added the constraint as unique. Now what we are going to do is, let's try to enter the duplicate email. Okay, I'll write the employee ID as 3, and for employee email I'll give the previous email ID. So this is like a duplicate only because we have already entered this email. Let's see whether it throws error or it accepts the data. See, it throws error and it says that unique constraint, which is UQ. UQ is nothing but the name we have given here. And I've already told you in Oracle database, the constraint name, table name, everything is mentioned or stored as in a capital letter. So you can see here UQ is in capital letter. So it says unique constraint, that is UQ, is violated. So it is saying that we did not follow the rule. So that's why it is not taking that value in the table. So this is how we can validate. Okay, next I'll show you how to remove that constraint. Remove that unique constraint. So in order to remove that constraint, you need to write alter table employee and then you need to add here. May not add, you need to write drop constraint and only constraint name. If you give, that is enough. I'll select and run this command. See, alter table name, drop constraint and that constraint name, and you can see table employee altered. Now if you give the duplicate value, it will take. So if I want to display the data, see, it has taken the duplicate uh, email ID, so twice it is taken. So in order to avoid this error, uh, we need to add the constraint to the column. So I'm showing you both how to add the constraint, how to delete the constraint, and how to validate the constraint. Validation. Fine. As I told you, I'm telling you that I have also mentioning everything in the notes. You can check it. Now let's see primary key. So as we all know, primary key is nothing but that is a key using which the rows can be identified. Okay, so primary key includes both properties of it. It includes both unique and not null. It cannot have a duplicate value. Also, um, it cannot have null value. So I'll show you how to add that in existing table. Let me see primary key. So in order to add the primary key, you need to write alter table name, add, you should add it, add that constraint. So add constraint and primary key, I'll give name as pk, and here the keyword primary key I need to mention, and for which column you want to add that constraint, I'll give employee id. Okay, I'll select this and I'll run the command. Okay, remove the duplicate and null values. Why it is showing error is because in the table we have already entered the null value, duplicate value and all, so it is throwing error. What we need to do is first we need to delete all the values from the table. Okay, first delete from table employee. Four rows got deleted. If I add this constraint to the table, it will accept it, because what is the use of adding this constraint when the table already has a null value for this particular column. Okay, that's why it was throwing error. Now I think it will accept it. Okay, it shows employee table altered. Now let's validate by inserting the value. Employee name I'll give. So here I'll write, so for employee ID I'm giving 1. We know that employee ID is a primary key here, and here I'll give something as Sita and try to execute the query, and it shows one row inserted. And if I display the data from the table employee, it shows employee ID 1, Sita, all other are null because we have removed all the constraint. Okay, because I'm showing you how to add the constraint, also how to remove the constraint. Here we have inserted this value. If you want to check whether this primary key is working or not, what we can do is, um, first we'll try to enter the duplicate value, and then we'll try to enter with a null value. So I'll only change the employee name here. Maybe I'll write as Kavi. I'll give employee name as Kavi, and I'll run the statement. It throws error because unique constraint is violated, because the primary key cannot have duplicate also. No, I've already explained here that the primary key include both unique and not null constraint. So if here we are entering the duplicate ID, that's why it is throwing error, saying unique constraint is violated. Okay, this one I'll remove, and what I'll do is I'll try to enter the null value. I'm not going to enter anything. Only let's give employee name, and let's see whether it will accept or not. Again it gives error saying that cannot insert null into a system employee.employee id, because um, employee id is the primary key, so it cannot have either null value or duplicate value. Okay, so that's why it is throwing error. So we have successfully validated it. Now let's see how to remove that constraint. So to remove that constraint, it is same as unique. So drop constraint, and here you need to mention the constraint name. It's not alter table employee. This one to remove the constraint. I'll select and run it. Employee table altered. So we have removed a primary key constraint. Okay. See, I've already also mentioned here, do not forget to validate the constraint to check if the data satisfy the constraint. Now let's check the foreign key. So what is a foreign key? Foreign key is nothing but it establishes the relationship between the two tables, referencing the primary key of another table. I'll explain this with an example. Let's see about foreign key. So here usually we will have two tables. Okay, so one act as a parent table and one act as a child table. So the parent table is nothing but it will have a fixed uh, data. So we will not change it very frequently. Only in the child table we make the changes. Okay, so both will have the primary key, and in the child table we have to so here department is the parent table. I'll just explain with example. So here department is the parent table, and it can have the two column, that is department id and department name. So here department id is the primary key of the department table. Now let's take student as a child table. Why this is called as child table is because this will have the foreign key. This will have the foreign key, which is nothing but the primary key of another table. Okay. So when we try to insert the record in the student table, first the Oracle will check whether the department ID what we are entering in the student table is exist in the department table. If it do not exist, then it will throw error and the record will not be inserted. Okay, this is how the relationship between the two table works in the foreign key. Okay, I will also explain this with example here. So we have a table. First, let's describe the table employee to check the table structure. So here we have employee ID, name, email, and age. Okay. Instead of explaining this, what I'll do is I'll create a new table student with only a minimum column so that it will be very easy to understand. Okay, so I'll create table student student, and this will have a student ID. Its data type is number, and this one is primary key for this table. Okay, and then student name, and its data type is varchar2, and it can accept only 20 number of characters. Okay, and then I'll enter department ID as a column, and its data type is number, and let's create the parent table here. So parent table here is department table, and this is student is child table because it will have the foreign key. So table department, for department table, let's create the table as create table department department. Let's create table department, and it will have only two values, that is ID, and its data type is number, and next is name, and its data type is varchar2. So we have created a table department with the column department ID, department name, and here for department ID we have given as a constraint as primary key, and for department name the data type is varchar2. Okay, so we can see table department is created here, and for this child table student we have created a column for student ID, column for student name, and one more column for department ID, and this department ID is going to act as a foreign key for this child table. Okay, so for that need to enter constraint, and constraint name we can write as fk, which is like this is user defined like customized constraint name that we are going to give for this foreign key. So I'm giving constraint name as for fk, and you need to write the key word for foreign key, and then for which column you want to apply this foreign key. So you need to write the column name as department ID, followed by references, and then you need to write the column name, not column name, table name of the parent. This is so the department what we are writing here is a parent table name. So department, and in this you need to write the primary key, that is department ID. Okay, let's run and execute this. Okay, so we can see table student also successfully created, and here uh, a department table which is parent table is also created. So we have successfully created the parent table department and the child table student, and we know that the child table student has the foreign key, that is department ID from the table department. Okay, now uh, let's try to insert the value first in the department table. So first let's see um, if any record is present in the department table. So for that I'll try to display the records in the department table, that is select star from department. Select star from department, and we can see there is empty values. So column name is department ID and department name. So let's insert values now. Insert into department, and we'll enter the values. We'll write 1, and department name I'll give as science, and I'll select this and execute. So we can see one row is inserted, and I'll enter the another row. So I'll give a department ID as 2 and a name as maths. So we have successfully inserted 2 rows, and we'll try to insert one more. We'll enter English as a department name, and I'll insert the query. When I try to display, it shows department ID 1, 2, 3 and department name science, maths and English. So this is the parent table. Okay, now let's try to insert the records in the student table. Okay, student table. Here in student table, student ID, we need to enter the student ID, and then student name I'll enter as Arun, and the department ID I need to enter. So department ID I'll insert 1. So this one department ID belongs to this one. So if you insert the department ID which doesn't belong to the table department, this one, the another parent table, then it throws error, because we need to make sure the uh, foreign key which we are entering should be present in the department ID table. So I will show you the example. See, I'm inserting uh, into student. So I'm inserting into student. The values is as follows: 101, and name is Arun, and the ID is 1. You can see one row got inserted. Now let's display this data from the table student. I'll enter student here. I select and I display. See here 101 Arun, and the department ID is 1. Okay. Now if I try to enter the department ID which doesn't belong to the parent table, then it throws error. I'll show you the example. Here if I enter 10, when I execute the query, see here it throws error. It says that FK, which is nothing but the foreign key, it is integrity constraint, foreign key is violated, so parent key is not found. So this is a parent key, so this parent key it does not found. So this ID should match with the department ID. That is how uh, the foreign key is used. So I have explained how to add foreign key, and in order to remove the foreign key you just have to write alter table student and drop. You need to write the constraint and the name of the foreign key constraint, and you can validate. I have already shown you how to validate the data. Now let's see how to use check constraint. So as I have already explained you how to use a check constraint. So in order to add the check constraint, you need to write alter table student add constraint check, and student age is greater than 20. So this is the condition you need to enter inside the check constraint. So what it will do is, if you're adding the student age lesser than 20, then that means it will throw error. So the student age should be greater than 20, and in order to remove the constraint, you can write alter table drop student drop the constraint chk. And this one also I've already explained you, default constraint. So this will make sure the column can a column will have default value if there is no value provided. So as you know, in Oracle both not null and default is considered as column attributes. So in order to add the default constraint to an existing column, you can enter alter table student and modify. This is the column name city default Bangalore. This is what the example. And in order to remove it, you can write alter table student, modify the column name and its data type. and you can validate it. And feature, so there are a few features in the database object, that is identity, sequence, trigger, index, view, and synonym. So I'll explain identity here. Identity is nothing but it is like a what to say, it automatically generates the unique number for a column. So in MySQL, we write as auto increment. So similar to that, here it is identity. So in order to add the identity, you need to create the table student, and you need to write the column name followed by its data type, and you need to write generated by default as identity. So this means we are generating by default. So in case if you are adding the value for this column id, then Oracle do not generate any default value. If you do not add any value, then by default it act as identity. That means it automatically generates a unique number. So kind of auto increment. And to remove this identity from the identity column, you can write alter table demo and modify id, and you need to write drop identity. Okay, this one I'll show you example. Okay, I'll drop student, and I'll drop student here, and I'll drop table student here. Okay, I have dropped the entire table, and here I'm creating a student table. Column is id, its data type is number, and here this is where we are creating the um, auto generative number, unique number. So we need to write generated by default as identity, and the second column we are giving student name barker 30. Okay, table student is created. I will enter the value. Okay, student values. So here we need to give two column values. So first I'll give for id 1, and for name um, I'll give as ram. If I select and execute the statement, it shows row 1 is inserted. So if I ask to display the data, it will show id as 1 and name as ram. In case if I do not enter this one, and if I try to execute the query, it will throw error because I need to mention here the to which column I'm entering. So for that I need to write student name. Okay, student name, and if I enter here, it will take, so second row is inserted. And if I ask to display the data here, see here it shows it has auto generated the id. Here for the first one I have entered the 1, for the second one it starts from 1, that is why again it is showing student id as 1. Let me show you the second um, one. So the second name I'll mention as maybe Sita, and I'll execute this query, and we can see one row executed. And if I ask to display the data, here it will show second. Okay, 2. Okay, so from here it is starting the auto generative. If I try to enter the third one, it will take as student ID 3. Okay, so as I've already told you, um, in order to display not display, in order to delete this identity property from the column, you just have to write alter table demo modify and this column name drop identity. Okay, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope this video is helpful for you. I will also share the complete notes under the comment section. And if you found this video useful, please like, share, and subscribe the video. Thank you so much.